Hi everyone, welcome back to Actual English. I'm Jennifer Clyde. It's time for lesson 219 and today's topic is Bukchon Hanok Village. So we'll be talking about these hanoks, Korean houses. But what's so special about Bukchon Hanok Village? Well, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Bukchon Hanok Village is the only place in Seoul where you will find Korean houses, as we call them, hanoks, clustered together. There are, I believe, around 900 or a bit more than 900, nearly 1,000 hanoks clustered together, gathered together in this area. And they say that the view from the very top, a very popular village or alley is called Gahwaedong-gil. So it's the most famous part of Bukchon Hanok Village. It amazes visitors with the sight of all these hanoks clustered together, and also the stunning panoramic views over the city from the very top of the alley. It's also especially popular among tourists because it's said to be the finest of the Bukchon 8 views, the 8 great views of the Bukchon Hanok Village. So the question is, before we get started, have you been to this area? I believe it's also a very popular filming location as well. And unlike other hanok villages, Bukchon Hanok Village is actually a living village because it's inhabited by Seoul citizens. People actually live in these houses in this village, so it's very different. It's not exactly a touristy place, but it is an area where people actually live, where Seoul citizens actually live. So let's talk more about today's topic. Are you ready? Let's get started with Actual Talk.
Kelly, what do you think of Korean traditional houses, the hanoks?
Hanoks, I love them.
Yeah, they're beautiful, right?
Absolutely.
Breathtaking.
And they're actually becoming very trendy. I don't know if you've noticed.
Sure, it kind of, like people all used to live in hanoks back in the day, you know,
Yes.
and then it all changed to apartments. But now the trend is back to hanoks because you get your own little space garden and things like that.
Well, for me, I've always loved the idea of my own personal space, but the look and feel and the characteristics of them, the structure is just so neat. My favorite restaurant, which is actually French, is in a hanok.
A French restaurant in a hanok? Wow.
Yeah, it's like a hidden gem.
That's cool.
It doesn't even, to my knowledge, it doesn't even have a name.
Okay.
People in the know kind of go there.
You've got to tell me about that after the show.
Maybe that's a good idea for you and your wife.
Yes.
But just, I guess, it's a taste of old Korea. You know, they're the real thing. They're restored. They have all of the characteristics of what they had back then, made more beautiful, usually. And when you see one, I feel lucky. Yeah. When I pass one on the street, I feel very fortunate.
Sure, one in good condition and things like that. And the architecture, the roofs are beautiful. But for me, the
layered roofs.
The tiles and everything, but the icing on the cake is the paper doors and windows. You know, they don't use
with
glass.
The icons.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, the mandalas.
Oh, it's amazing. Shapes. Yeah, I'd love the chance to live in one, but I think they're really expensive now, right?
Yeah, I believe they've become more expensive than villas.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely, because they're antiques, really. You'd be living in an antique, and politicians and diplomats are living in them, restored hanok. So I don't know what the chances of me living in one are, but I would love one. I would love one.
Sure, I think the reason why as well they're getting more and more expensive is because the space is at such a premium, you know, in places like Seoul. So they're trying to build higher and higher buildings, whereas hanok are usually just one story. Yeah, fingers crossed for me and you, Kelly, but it doesn't look good. Maybe we'll have to build one back in our home countries.
Either way, if either one of us gets one, we'll have the other over for a meal.
Yes, a housewarming party, yeah, sure.
Deal.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time for Actual Talk. Let's take a deeper look into what Peter and Kelly were talking about. So the topic once again is Bukchon Hanok Village. They are going to be talking about hanoks, the Korean houses, and of the village itself, the wonderful things about the village, what you can see there, what you can find there, what you can enjoy in that area. So let's take a look. Here we go. Peter begins by saying, Kelly, what do you think of Korean traditional houses? The hanoks, okay? And then she says, hanoks, I love them. They sure are beautiful. So she says, I love the hanoks. It's pretty simple. And then, here we go. Peter says, yeah, they are beautiful. They're beautiful, right? Breathtaking. I'm sure you have seen this word and heard of this word many, many times. Breathtaking. What is the meaning of this word? Do you know? Okay. If you say that something is breathtaking, you are saying that it is, it causes awe. It's magnificent. It is beautiful. It's so beautiful that it's hard to express in words. Imagine that you see something. It is so beautiful that it takes your breath away. Okay? It takes your breath away. You almost stop breathing. That's why it is breathtaking. Its beauty takes your breath away, so it's breathtaking. Okay? Is that easier to understand? So once again, he says breathtaking. And then Kelly says, absolutely. And they're actually becoming very trendy. So what's becoming trendy? We're talking about the hanoks, okay? These houses, these old style houses. The hanoks are becoming very trendy. If you say that something has become trendy, you're saying that something is in style, it's in fashion, it's very popular at that time, okay? And then moving on, Peter says, sure, people used to live in hanoks back in the day. Back in the day, meaning a long time ago. And then it all changed to apartments. So we see less and less of these hanoks, of course. If you compare Seoul City, the houses in Seoul City itself, from let's say 50 years ago even, yeah, nowadays we see more taller buildings and more apartment complexes compared to the number of houses, especially these hanoks. So that is what he's saying. It all changed to apartments. The hanoks have been rebuilt, or they have been torn down, and apartments have been built. But now the trend is back too. The trend has returned. The trend is back to hanoks because you get your own little space, your own private space, such as a garden and things like that. Now, Kelly says, well, I've always loved the idea of my own personal space. Personal space is an area or a space that you have to yourself, okay? It's like your private space where other people do not enter, okay? They don't invade. So you may like your own personal space. That's what she's saying. But the look and feel and the characteristics of them, meaning the hanoks, the structure is just so neat. So she's saying the look, the way these hanoks look, the feel, the way these hanoks make you feel, and the characteristics of these hanoks, as well as the structure, how these hanoks are built. It is so neat. Okay, let's take a look at this word here, neat, N-E-A-T. So, here's another question. I often ask you this question. When you see the word neat, what is the first meaning that pops in your head? What does neat mean? Okay, neat means tidy, well organized, okay? It would be the opposite of messy, for example. But here in this sentence, it has a very different definition. Now, neat can also be used as a slang, meaning very cool, great, excellent, okay? So she's saying that all of these things, the look, feel, characteristics, and the structure of these hanoks, they're so cool, they're excellent, they're neat, okay? My favorite restaurant, which is French, is in a hanok, or is in the style of a hanok. But she's saying that this French restaurant is actually in a hanok. Very interesting. So Peter says, a French restaurant in a hanok? Wow, that's what I said. She says, yeah, it's like a hidden gem. We looked over hidden gem a while back, hidden gem. And she says, to my knowledge, it doesn't even have a name. I'm sure it has a name, really? A restaurant doesn't have a name, okay? And then she says, people in the know go there. So what is in the know? People in the know, what would that mean? People in the know. We're talking about people that have more information than other people do, okay? So you can say that somebody is in the know about something, which means he or she knows about that thing or knows much more about that thing than anybody else. So we're talking about people in the know, how they go there, meaning people that know what's where, which restaurants are cool to go to. These people that have more information than other ordinary people actually frequent this restaurant. I would love to check it out. And then Peter says, you've got to tell me. You have to tell me about that after the show. All right. Now, Kelly moves on. Maybe that's a good idea for you and your wife. This is mentioned because the other day, I believe, we were talking about the En Seoul Tower. And remember, Peter asked Kelly, any recommendations? I am running out of ideas, or I am running out of places to take my wife. I need help. He asked Kelly for some recommendations. And she recommended the En Seoul Tower. So maybe she remembered and she's saying, I did recommend the En Seoul Tower, but maybe that's a good idea for you and your wife. Perhaps, the Bukchon Hanok Village or even this French restaurant in Hanok would be a good place to take her. Okay? And then she says, I guess it's a taste of old Korea. A taste of something means an example of something. A hint of something, an example of something. So she's saying it's a taste of old Korea. If you go there, you can kind of feel what old Korea used to be, how it used to be or what it used to be. You know, they're the real thing. They have all the characteristics of what they had back then, meaning a long, long ago in Korea. Made more beautiful, usually. So she's talking about perhaps the Hanoks, even the craft workshops there, these museums even, maybe not museums, but the houses. She's saying they're very similar to what the Hanoks were like many, many years ago, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. But since many of them have been restored or reconstructed, they're even more beautiful. And when I pass one on the street, when I pass by one or walk by one, when I pass one on the street, I feel very fortunate. When you see such beautiful things, don't you feel happy and glad that you actually were there to see it? So she's saying, I feel very fortunate. Sure, and the architecture, he says. The roofs are beautiful. Yes, and Kelly says, oh yeah, the layered roofs. So we're talking about roofs. The very top or the top layer of houses, roofs they are, and they are layered roofs. If something is layered, we're saying that one layer is on top of another. It's like if these are all layers, okay? We can say one layer on top of another. It's layered. So we're talking about layered roofs, how beautiful they are. Peter says the tiles and everything. But the icing on the cake is the paper doors and windows. You know, they don't use glass. Now, we went over icing on the cake a long, long time ago, and to help you refresh your memory, I have chosen this idiom once again for today's lesson, even for our new viewers, perhaps. Now, icing on the cake means something that is added to something that's already good, okay? So he says, the icing on the cake is the paper doors and windows. He's saying these hanoks are beautiful, okay, in so many ways, but even more beautiful, or these things, the paper doors and the windows, make the houses even more beautiful. Okay, we'll practice this pattern or this idiom later on. And then he says they don't use glass. They do not use glass. You will hardly see glass used in the hanoks. We're going to see rice paper used on these doors and windows. And then she says with the mandalas, the stress goes there. Mandalas was a word that was quite new to me as well. Mandalas, it also is pronounced mandalas, but we're talking about Buddhist and Hindu arts, especially in Buddhist and Hindu art. We're talking about these symbols that represent or somehow are linked to the universe. These symbols are usually circular. So these circular symbols that we see at these hanoks, when certain things are painted on them, you can refer to them as mandalas, okay? Anyhow, Peter says, I'd love the chance to live in one. Live in a hanok or live in one of the hanoks. But I think they're really expensive now. Yeah, Kelly says, I believe they've become more expensive than villas. Aha. So these hanoks have become more expensive than villas. In some cases, I would probably say, yes, it is true. They can be so expensive. And then she says, you'd be living in an antique, something from a long, long time ago, and politicians and diplomats are living in restored or reconstructed, redesigned hanoks. So I don't know what the chances of me living in one are, but I would love one. Meaning I would love to have a hanok. I would love to own a hanok. Or she says I would love to live in one. If she could afford one, that is, because they are expensive. Now, Peter says, sure, I think the reason why they are getting more and more expensive is because space is at such a premium. Okay, space is at such a premium. If you say that something is at a premium, you are saying that it is of an unusually high price. Usually, if something is in demand or of short supply, more and more people want it. So the price of it will go up. So you would say something is at a premium. Okay, especially in places like Seoul. So they're trying to build higher and higher buildings. That's right, we're seeing more and more higher and higher skyscrapers. Moving on, he says, fingers crossed for me, meaning let's hope for the best. And you, Kelly, but it doesn't look good. What does this mean? It doesn't look good. He's talking about how he's going to keep his fingers crossed, with the hopes of being able to live in one of these hanoks. But he's saying, well, it doesn't look good, meaning I really don't think we'll be able to live in one, okay? But he says, maybe we'll have to build one back in our home countries. Meaning, maybe it looks as though, or it seems as though we probably won't be able to afford to buy a hanok in Seoul. So I guess we'll have to build one of these hanoks in our home countries and live in them when we return to our home countries. That's what he's saying. Yeah, have hopes. Why not? You could always build a hanok of your own wherever you want, right? Okay, that's a wrap for today's actual talk. Let's take a listen one more time.
Kelly, what do you think of Korean traditional houses, the hanoks?
Hanoks, I love them.
Yeah, they're beautiful, right?
Absolutely.
Breathtaking.
And they're actually becoming very trendy. I don't know if you've noticed.
Sure, it kind of, like people all used to live in hanoks back in the day,
Yes.
and then it all changed to apartments. But now the trend is back to hanoks because you get your own little space garden and things like that.
Well, for me, I've always loved the idea of my own personal space, but the look and feel and the characteristics of them, the structure is just so neat. My favorite restaurant, which is actually French, is in a hanok.
A French restaurant in a hanok? Wow.
Yeah, it's like a hidden gem.
Cool.
It doesn't even, to my knowledge, it doesn't even have a name.
Okay.
People in the know kind of go there.
You've got to tell me about that after the show.
Maybe that's a good idea for you and your wife.
Yes.
But just, I guess, it's a taste of old Korea. They're the real thing. They're restored. They have all of the characteristics of what they had back then, made more beautiful, usually. And when you see one, I feel lucky. Yeah. When I pass one on the street, I feel very fortunate.
Sure, one in good condition and things like that. And the architecture, the roofs are beautiful, but for me, the
layered roofs.
The tiles and everything, but the icing on the cake is the paper doors and windows. They don't use
with
glass.
The icons.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, the mandalas.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, I'd love the chance to live in one, but I think they're really expensive now, right?
Yeah, I believe they've become more expensive than villas.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely, because they're antiques, really. You'd be living in an antique, and politicians and diplomats are living in them, restored hanok. So I don't know what the chances of me living in one are, but I would love one. I would love one.
Sure, I think the reason why as well they're getting more and more expensive is because the space is at such a premium, in places like Seoul. So they're trying to build higher and higher buildings, whereas Hanok are usually just one story. Yeah, fingers crossed for me and you, Kelly. But it doesn't look good. Maybe we'll have to build one back in our home countries.
Either way, if either one of us gets one, we'll have the other over for a meal.
Yes, a
party.
housewarming party. Yeah, sure.
Deal.
Here we go. Let's take you through actual expressions. First of all, we've got 4 words for you. Breathtaking. If you say that something is so beautiful, okay, it takes your breath away, you can say that it is breathtaking. Remarkable, gorgeous, even heart-stopping. I like this one. Practice that. Neat. In today's actual talk conversation, it meant cool, wonderful, great, even divine. Layered means leveled as well, one layer on top of another. And mandala. Often even said mandala, but more commonly pronounced mandala. We're talking about Hindu and Buddhist art, any of these various designs that symbolize the universe. They're usually in circular designs, okay? Moving on to our first pattern, in the know. We were talking about people in the know, right? We're talking about people with much more information than other people. So here's a sentence. People in the know go there for the best Napoli pizza. It's not Napoli, it's Napoli pizza, okay? People in the know. People that have all the information about good Napoli pizza go there for its pizza. Icing on the cake, once again. If something is added to something that is already good, it's like a plus, a bonus. You would say it is the icing on the cake. I really enjoyed the food, and the icing on the cake was their dessert. So you're saying the food was really good, but you know what? On top of that, the dessert was good too. All right. At a premium, usually if something is of short supply or in demand, it is of unusually high prices. So we can say housing in certain areas is at a premium. Housing in certain areas, especially certain areas in the Gangnam district or any certain areas in Seoul, yes, they are at a premium, meaning they're very, very, very expensive. Okay, that is a wrap for today's actual expressions.
As an expat living here in Korea, somebody who comes from a different country and then stays in a country for work or for leisure for an extended period of time, it's really important to ingratiate yourself into that society, to learn about the culture. How do we do that? Well, we look at food, we look at traditions, we look at clothing, all of those things that help us to understand about the culture of the place that we're living in. So we're looking at traditional history. What better place than Bukchon Traditional Village? It's a Hanok village. So it's a really old style village that has the old style houses, traditional costumes, and the delicious traditional foods that we all know. Bantan, side dishes, okay? If you get the chance, you should go to Bukchon village and see how Korea used to be before it changed into this mega city that we live in today that's so busy. Take some time, go and relax, walk around the village and see it for yourself.
It's now time for actual story, everyone. As you have seen, Martin has helped us out today, and he's talked about the Bukchon Hanok village. He's so kind, and whenever he gives us his response or answer or explanation, it's so easy to understand. Thanks, Martin. Okay, let's take a look. He says, as an expat living here in Korea, it's really important to ingratiate yourself into that society and to learn about the culture. Here's a difficult word, ingratiate. Okay, ingratiate means to put in a lot of effort, to gain favor, for example. If you do things or say things to please others, if you put in that effort, you are ingratiating yourself. Okay? What better place than Bukchon Traditional Village? What better place than so-and-so? You're saying this place is the best place. There's no other place. This place is the best place, okay? It's a really old style village. It has the old style houses, traditional costumes, and the delicious traditional foods. So he's talking about how it is a very old style village or old styled village. It's got houses, traditional costumes, as well as delicious traditional foods. And then moving on to our very final sentence. If you get the chance, if you get the opportunity, you should go to Bukchon village and see how Korea used to be. Or you can see what Korea used to be like years and years ago, thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago. So yes, it's definitely a place worth visiting. Okay, that is a wrap for today's actual story. Let's take a listen to it one more time.
As an expat living here in Korea, somebody who comes from a different country and then stays in a country for work or for leisure, for an extended period of time, it's really important to ingratiate yourself into that society, to learn about the culture. How do we do that? Well, we look at food, we look at traditions, we look at clothing, all of those things that help us to understand about the culture of the place that we're living in. So we're looking at traditional history. What better place than Bukchon Traditional Village? It's a Hanok village. So it's a really old style village that has the old style houses, traditional costumes, and the delicious traditional foods that we all know. Bantan, side dishes, okay? If you get the chance, you should go to Bukchon village and see how Korea used to be before it changed into this mega city that we live in today that's so busy. Take some time, go and relax, walk around the village and see it for yourself.
Today's topic was Bukchon Hanok Village, a wonderful place to visit. It's actually one of the most popular places among foreign visitors especially, but also among Koreans or the locals alike. So we talked about the village, what you can see there, what you can experience there, and I think what Martin mentioned also helps us out. He's mentioned something about expats. If you don't remember what that means, I have the definition written on our script, and you can always check it out by going to our homepage. But first of all, a reminder of our next topic. Okay, our next lesson will be talking about a very busy market, usually very busy during the nighttime or past 12 o'clock. Be talking about Dongdaemun Market. Okay, so tune in for that. And you can check out our scripts right here at our homepage. Come on over to www.ebse.co.kr and look for Actual English with Jennifer. Come by to our homepage and share your thoughts, ideas, and give us some feedback. Post it up on our message board, and be sure to check out our scripts as well. It's right there on our homepage. Okay, that is a wrap for today. I'll catch you again next time. Bye for now.